All right. So, ATM Hotep to all of the viewers who are watching live and who are watching this archive. Welcome to another Divine Words Wednesday, hanging out with the Seshew Medew Netcher. And before we get started for this Wednesday, oh, and I said I was going to do that, right? All right, there we go. And I said that was going to happen. All right, so before we get into this Wednesday's session, Divine Words Wednesdays, I'd like for everybody on the panel to introduce yourself, have a roll call, let everyone know who's with us and who will be participating for this evening. I'll start with myself. My name is wbn.f, and again, I'd like to welcome everyone who's watching and who will be watching the archive. And I hope that everyone is learning from these sessions, and you know, we emphasize a method with these sessions. We also have another session that we do on Fridays, Freestyle Fridays, and we'll probably be coming up with some more. And we're looking forward to more participation, questions, interactions with the viewers, whether it's live interaction or after the fact. You know, you see the video, you can come join us in the Facebook group, and we'll give the details a little later. And you know, you can ask questions, chime in on conversations, and share information. So again, I'm Bujao, and welcome everyone, and then everybody else can introduce yourself.
Yes, Hotep family. My name is Atiba Sekou. You can find me on Facebook with the same name. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. So I pass the mic.
ETM Hotep, this is Damo. Go by Damian Everly on Facebook. I'd like to welcome all the new members, the people I've met over the past few weeks since we started getting this going. Hotep.
Hotep, this is June, representing from the Pacific Northwest. ETM Hotep, just want to welcome everybody in peace and hope you leave satisfied. Thanks for tuning in, Hotep.
ETM Hotep, Greeny Kofi Paisai, Dua. You can find me on Facebook as Kofi Paisai, and I'm reporting in from Mississippi. Thank you for watching this show.
All right. Have a couple more.
Yes, that's me. I'm here. Hotep, this is Tonika, and just want to thank everybody that's watching right now and probably later. So hope you guys enjoy the show. Hotep.
All right, I believe we have one more. Brother Chris just popping in. I'm not sure if you're able to.
I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Welcome to the party. Looking forward to answering y'all questions or any clearing any misunderstandings about the Papyrus.
All right.
ETM Hotep. This is Brother Antoine Germain, also known as Hush Your Mouth on Google+. Hotep.
Yeah, I want to also throw out a suggestion for people who want to move towards a better understanding of this papyrus. You should check out a video that we did earlier called Towards a Better Understanding of the Book of the Dead. It's a lot of information in it, and I just suggest you guys to look through our uploads and check it out. Hotep.
All right. Yeah, and I also want to say that we finally got figured out the chat. Well, I should say me. I put the blame on me. I finally figured out how to activate the chat, and we had it activated last week, and it provides you know, some interaction where we can see what people are saying on the chat, and I'm looking at it now. So I just want to say welcome to the brother Sean, Brother Sean, Sister Monica, and then another sister, Love Me Fro, Love Me Fro. I'm not sure of your Facebook names, but anyone who chimes in on the chat, if you are on Facebook, by all means, please join the Sesh Medew Netcher Facebook group, or you can send us, any of us, a friend request. Just so we can keep up and answer questions and share information back and forth. All right, because that's one of our goals, and that brings me into.
Satep showed up.
Okay, let me make sure.
So we got Damo on the line as well.
All right, we have Damo. We have a full house. All right, and we bring Brother Satep in. All right,
Matter of
Satep,
fact,
you are active. If you want to introduce yourself, it's the famous Satep of Google Plus. Be holding it down. Now let me stop. That's how you.
Don't put that much sauce on it.
Put some hot sauce on it, right?
Put too much sauce on it. Nah, pieces September Ra Mariana. I missed the last one. I apologize for that for the audience and family on the panel. But yeah, let's get it in, man. I'm ready to go.
All right. So let me share my screen. You had something,
man, can I?
Jim?
Yeah, I want to throw something else out there. You said we had a full house, made me think of something. I just want to say our group, we really want more scribes, and we need more scribes. We need people to participate in these type of institutions, and the way we got it set up. So don't think that it's a closed group and it's just us brothers and sisters doing this work. We need participation from the community too. So if anybody's aspiring scribe, just please stay tuned to the end, and I'm sure the information will be provided. Hotep.
Yes, definitely. And just to add to what Brother June just said, definitely for the ladies out there, we need more women in this. So if you're, listening and you're interested in learning the Medu Netcher, feel free to do that, and just know that there's definitely a need for that, so we can balance things out. So that would be great to have more of the ladies interested as well.
All right. Well spoken from our esteemed sister, Sonette. All right. Okay. Well, with that said, I will share my screen. And all right. So hopefully, can you all see my screen? Make sure everything's okay. See our big symbol. All right. So again, welcome ETM Hotep. Welcome to our Divine Words Wednesdays, and we are the Seshew Medew Netcher. And the title Seshew Medew Netcher, it means loyal scribes of divine words, right? And this is our symbol. Now, as June said, we are we're not a closed group or some secret, elite group, that's closed off from the rest of the world and everything like that. We just are a membership of like-minded individuals with aspirations of being true or loyal scribes of divine words. So we put in the work to study the language that we know as Ancient Kemet, as the spoken language of Kemet, or in particular what's called the hieroglyphs, which is Sesh Medew Netcher. All right, so we've embraced the importance of learning the language as a means to have a meeting of the minds with the people who are responsible for the culture of Kemet. A lot of people romanticize Kemet, commercialize Kemet, and then accurately speak about Kemet and all of its contributions to the world. But there's one thing to do that, then it's another thing to actually tap into the minds and the mentality and the psychology of the people to find out how they were even able to create such an illustrious civilization. So we emphasize the importance of learning the language because we understand that language is the DNA of culture. Culture is transmitted through language, whether it's oral traditions, orally, or in our case, fortunately for us, in our case with Kemet, it was done in writing. And so we focus on Sesh Medew Netcher, which is the indigenous title of what most people know as hieroglyphs. All right. There's a few questions about the hieratic. You know, do we study hieratic? Do we study Demotic? Do we study Coptic? And these are other scripts that was used by the people of Ancient Kemet. And right now we focus on the hieroglyphs, or Sesh Medew Netcher. But we have plans very soon to deal with the Sesh Medew Netcher, which is an indigenous title for hieratic. All right. Now, the reason why we focus on Sesh Medew Netcher as a first script to learn is because of its clarity, because it's the easiest to learn, it's the easiest to read, and our goal is to pierce into the meanings of all of different texts. You know, whether it's what they call in religious texts, whether it's the wisdom text of the genre of wisdom literature, or the everyday text, or funerary or underworld text, all of these different texts that are survived for us today. The goal is to find out its meaning. What are the intended meanings? What are the realities behind the text? You know, because as we know, and we've come to learn that the ancient people all across Africa, the way that information was documented, the way that their observations of the natural world that we call science today was documented, they used what we call today figure of speech, the various figure of speeches. So from metaphor, allegory, to myth, you know, myth, which is a narrative. All of these different literary devices that were used, we call them figure of speech today. That's what was used all throughout the continent. So we have to pierce the metaphors. We have to, you know, the symbolisms and the metaphors. We have to come to the realization, or figure out the reality behind those metaphors. In other words, so that's the goal, and we want to take the most effective and efficient route, which is to study the clearest script that's straightforward, that's the easiest to read, which are the pictorial, you know, what people know as hieroglyphs, which are the picture glyphs, the picture in nature. The hieratic is more of you lose the representation of the pictures of what they once were. All right, so that's, you know, one of the reasons. Don't want to go too long into that, but that's one of the reasons why the focus is on Sesh Medew Netcher first, and then hieratic later. Now, in ancient times, it was more practical to learn the hieratic first, because in as far as writing hieratic first, because in writing Sesh Medew Netcher, people didn't really write Sesh Medew Netcher. You carved it, whether it was incised or raised in stone or wood, and that took another skill set that people had to learn. You know, so for practical reasons, hieratic was faster, and it was more available to be taught and to learn and to put into practice. All right, so hopefully that covered, because we were asked that a few times in the past. All right, so our purpose for doing Divine Words Wednesdays is to emphasize the correct method, as mentioned earlier. So we do that by demonstrating examples of how Sesh Medew Netcher is translated. So we've decided to pick the Papyrus of Ani, or what people may know as the Book of the Dead, or the Hr.k of Ani, the scribe Ani. And so we're going to do the different plates, what they call plates, because the scroll had a pretty good length to it, and it was cut into different sheets or plates. So we're going to go through them plate by plate. So tonight we're going to go through plate 1 of the Papyrus of Ani. So in doing so, we show, one, that the Sesh Medew Netcher script has been deciphered, because there's a lot of controversy. Well, not a lot. I take that back. There's a few, very small amount of people who are very adamant about it, though, who say that the Medew Netcher script, or Sesh Medew Netcher, has not been deciphered. You know, so we're doing this to refute that, not directly, but in us doing this, it just inadvertently refutes that. 2, the methods for doing so, so we emphasize the methods. And then 3, we demonstrate that with time, discipline, and patience, anyone can do it. Because, you know, we all started off not knowing how to do this at all. Okay, so if we can do it, and, you know, we're not any different than anybody else. So if we can do it, anybody can do it. But it takes time, discipline, and some patience. All right, so I want to emphasize that. All right, so the translation method, there's 4 steps to it. Step 1 is to determine the direction in which the signs are to be read. Step 2 is to identify and document each individual sign. Step 3, group the signs into words to be searched in dictionaries or vocabulary lists. Step 4 is to come up with a sensible translation. All right, now all 4 of those steps are performed by everyone who deals with Sesh Medew Netcher. All right, whether you're an expert or a beginner, or, you know, if that was your first language, you know, when you were reading it, you perform these 4 steps, but it's just that the speed in which these 4 steps are done will reflect your competency and your proficiency at it. All right, so as time goes on and you practice, a lot of these steps will become a lot faster. Step 1 is just a simple snap of the fingers. Step 2, you'll be a lot faster once you memorize the individual glyphs or signs. Step 3 is when you start to memorize words that you see a lot. You may see the same words in different inscriptions or different parts of inscriptions, and you'll probably notice that tonight. And then step 4, you know, it kind of goes hand in hand. You know, you'll realize what words mean based on your familiarity with them. All right, so for tonight, we are going to, let me move this here. So hopefully, oh, that kind of messed things up there, didn't it? All right. So this is plate 1 of the Book of the Dead of Ani, or the Peret Emheru of Ani. Someone has something to say? I think someone unmuted your mic. Okay. Excuse me. So now this picture on the right hand side, a lot of people are familiar with this because this picture gets passed around on social media a lot. You know, a lot of the pictures, because it's nice. You know, it's a nice piece of quote unquote art, and that's what people see. And you know, but people look at the picture and then they try to explain the picture without dealing with the inscriptions that accompany these pictures. Okay, and that's something that we've learned not to do. You know, we advise against doing that because it produces guesswork, speculation, and a lot of times people are just outright wrong. All right, even though it may sound good, you know, it may fit in with you know, some of the things people want to believe or whatever the case is, but a more scientific approach is to deal with the inscriptions that match or go with the pictures. All right, you can't divorce one from the other. Okay, so with that being said, remember, step 1 is to determine the directions in which the signs are to be read. So here is a cutout of the text that's on the left here. Okay, so I'm just basically removing this picture, and we're gonna deal with the glyphs here, and that's what you see here. But before I go there, Sonatiba, if you can explain step 1 and how you come to your conclusions. Can you explain that for everyone?
Okay. The first thing that I do to determine the direction that I'm going to read in the glyph in is I look for human figures, animals, human parts, and the animal part that are facing whichever direction they're facing. That's the direction that I read into. In this case, column 1 and your right, far right, you have the very first one is the man with his extended arm. He's facing to the right.
One quick second. Can you all see my cursor? Can you all see my cursor? I just want to.
Yes, I can see it.
To
Okay, all right. So I'll follow you with my cursor. I'm sorry.
Right, and the next glyph that follows is the human arm, and that also is facing to the right. And then we have the seated man, the viper, and we have the quail chick, and behind is the lower legs. Further down, you have a viper, and below that, the next one will be a leg again. And I'll go further down to the reed leaf, and further down, now I'm looking at the seated man again. Below that, I have a flag, some additional flag further down, and another bird, I believe the vulture. And below that, you have the double reed and the seated man. So in this case, I will be reading vertically from right to left.
Okay, excellent. Excellent. Yes. All right, so yeah, like I said, step one is pretty quick. And fortunately, on this particular inscription, all of the signs are facing to the right, as Sonatiba said, and also as he said, you're reading from the right to the left. So all of these glyphs are facing the same direction. But now there are some inscriptions that that you'll be facing or you're dealing with where the inscriptions are changing the direction based on what's going on and what's being said. All right, so this one's all facing the same direction. Okay. Let's see what else to point out on here. Now, there's something that I want to point out that Sonatiba mentioned vertical, which are the columns, and it's from right to left. Now, because these are in columns, and you see these straight lines going up to make it visually look like columns, to make it nice and neat for aesthetic reasons. Now, this doesn't mean that the column necessarily, at the end of this first column at the bottom, it doesn't necessarily mean that this is an end of either a word or a sentence or whatever. This is strictly for just organizing the glyphs in an aesthetic fashion. All right, so in other words, the first part of a word may be at the very bottom of a column, and then the rest of the word of that same word may be at the top. I'm not saying that's the case for this particular one, but you will find that to be the case in different inscriptions. So whether it's the word is broken up or the sentence is broken up or whatever the case is, these columns are for aesthetics and to make everything look very, very neat and regal. All right. So I just wanted to point that out. And in reading into the face of the signs, that's a very simple thing to remember because it's what we do today. We talk to people to their face. We don't talk to people's behind their heads or anything like that. In normal circumstances, we don't do that. So the same thing, just act as though you're talking to the signs. So if you're on the right hand side facing left, because you'll be facing everything, all the signs will be facing you. All right, so that covers step one. Anybody else have anything to add to step one that may have been missed? No? Okay. Now, step two is to identify and document each individual sign. And with that, I will pass the mic to Sondemo, who can go through a couple of the signs in column one. Do you have your screen? You want to share your screen? If not, I'll just keep this one up, or I can switch it over to your screen if you have something to share.
Should be sharing if y'all can see it.
Okay, give me a second to lock in on your screen. All right. It's all yours.
All right, Dua. Again, step 2, we just went through step 1, identifying the direction which to read. Step 2, you want to go through and identify each sign. Doing this process is like detective work. You want to go look at the sign and the inscription on the wall, go to your sign list, find it, document the function and everything you can about the sign. Now, the sign list is organized by Sir Alan Gardner. The one we like to use is on our website, mdw-nTr, but you can find it almost anywhere if you just Google for it. It's a common sign list that divides all the signs into 26 main categories and puts everything together for you. It makes everything kind of easy for you to find. So we'll go through and try to find some off this inscription we're dealing with right now. And the first one we're going to look for, once you go back, you'll be able to see. But if you're following while I'm talking and writing it down, we'll go look in the N under sky, earth, and water. Because what I'm looking at, it looks like it's a what I've seen before as a star, but we'll go find it in the sign list. And for your stars, you'll find it under your sky, earth, and water. So we'll go down into our N's. Everything is starting to pop up. You see the sunshine, the moon, crescent moon. And there we have it, N14 as a star. So write that down, N14, star. It'll tell you how it functions as a logogram, determinative, or phonogram. Write that information down. All right, we'll go back and find the next sign. As you'll see, what's like a figurine. Now, your figurines, remember, will be in your man and his occupations. It's like a man standing up. So we'll go into the man and his occupations and go find that sign. And you see them bending, seating, different, their hands in different positions. They're kneeling, doing different functions. We'll keep going to look for the one that we want to find. You see a man striking with both hands. That's a popular one. Dealing with teacher. A 30 is what we're looking for right here. Man with hands raised in front. I use it as a determinative, praise, so respect shows you different ways it's written. Again, you will write down the Gardner code, you will write down the function, how does it function, and whatever sentence you want to use. Again, step 2, we're just identifying the signs we're looking at. So those are the first 2. The third one we're going to look at, again, you can write these down, and once we go back to the main screen, you'll be able to see exactly where we're at. We're going to the writing, games, and music, because we've seen this one before. We dealt with it in the past, and it turned out to be a scroll with ties. Y1. Write down the Y1. So far we have the N14, the A30, and the Y1. We're just identifying the individual signs. There's another step where we group them together, but right now we're just identifying the individual signs. So that's your Y1. Write down how it functions. Write down your Gardner number so you can look it up later on once you get into your different steps. Okay, let's go back. Once we go back to the main screen, you'll see the next sign we run into, and a lot of folks have been following us for the few weeks and over the month and have been really studying their monoliterals. And the next sign we'll run into will be a common monoliteral, which should be familiar to you, which is the parts of the human body, which will turn out to be a D21, which is the mouth. A lot of the people that's watching right now, a lot of you guys already know this already because you've been studying and you know where that's at. So you write down the mouth, the logogram, how it functions as a logogram, a phonogram. You go to the next one. That's another one. That's the monoliteral, D36. Those that's been putting in a little work, it's not that many of them. 25 of them. I believe it's 25 of them. D36. It's the forearm. You write down all the available information, the Gardner code, how everything works. Now, once we go back to the main screen, you'll end up seeing the next sign we're going to go find right now on our sign list. It's like a circle with a dot in between it. We'll go find that in the sky, earth, and water section. And that will be N5, the sun. A lot of people like to say Ra, depending on how it's functioning. As a logogram determinative, could be Hr.k, could be Su, depending on how it functions. But you write down all the available information, and once you start putting everything together, once you go through the steps, you'll see how it's functioning. We'll go to the next one, and that's going to be found in the Z's, in the strokes. Because once you go back to the main screen, you'll see it's going to be 3 strokes. So there's the Z1. on the Z2. If you're using that Z2, which is showing you the 3 strokes, going over looking at how it functions, it's telling you to use it as Z1 3 times. So a lot of times you go into the sign list, you'll see a sign, you'll get to the function, and you'll see it leading you to another sign or to another Gardner code, and you just follow along. You just follow the sign list and go along. We'll go to another one quickly. This one should be pretty familiar. We went through before. A40, mainly used as a determinative. You hear us talk about determinative all the time, and over here they used to call it a seated God, A40. Determinative on here, they give you different names that they use. When it's used as logogram or determinative, you write down all the available information as the function. The next one we're going to go to looks like kind of a circle. We'll go find that in the unclassified. That's where I've seen that one before. And I believe it was the AA1, the basket from above. Now, a lot of these signs, once you go through, you'll be becoming familiar going back and forth because you'll say, well, hey, this looks like a placenta. But once you spend some time to it, you'll be able to, tell the difference between these signs. So this right here comes from a little different study and putting in a little bit of work. And it's called basket from above. And it shows you how it function as an H with the underscore into it. The Gardner code is AA1 for that one. The next one you're going to get to is going to be one of the monoliterals, one of the main ones. Anybody's been following along with us should know that's in the amphibians, animals, and reptiles. It's that famous horned viper that's found at I9. You'll see that in a lot of different places, so you should become with that I9, horned viper. Write down the functions for that. The next one is should be another familiar one because it's in our monoliterals. Again, loaves and cakes. We've been to this one through a lot of the decipherments we've been doing in the past. You're going to find that at X1, flat loaf. See how it functions as a logogram or phonogram. The very next one after that, once you go back to the main screen, you'll see how we follow down, and you'll see what I'm talking about, how these monoliterals just follow one after another. So then we'll go down to the G and birds. Once you go back to the main screen, you'll see, calling that one the quail chick, G43. And there it is, quail chick, phonogram, lowercase w. Another monoliterals right after that is showing a foot. If you know the monoliterals, that's going to again be in the parts of a human body. Still dealing with the sign list. Go to the D's. You start seeing the different parts of the body, the heads, hairs, eyes, ears. And we're going to find this one way down at D58, the foot. See how it functions as a logogram and a phonogram. And in between that, you'll see N35, which is another monoliteral, which, of course, if you've been studying it and trying to follow along with this, just learning those basic monoliterals will get you a long way. You see how we already run into a lot of them just dealing with this one vertical column. That will be N35 again, which is another familiar one. Of course, the water ripple. How it functions as logogram or phonogram. So those are just a few signs. If you've been following along and just taking out just a little bit of time, start getting those monoliterals in, get them in, study them twice a day, give them 30 minutes a day, just put some time into it, and you'll see how once you go back to the main screen that a lot of them just appear all of a sudden, not even getting real deep into the sign list, and you'll see just knowing those, you already follow your advancement. So again, this is step 2. You want to go through, identify all the signs, write down all the available information, and you can proceed to go on to the other steps. Dua and Hotep.
All right, Hotep. Iker, excellent. Let me get my screen back. Let's see. So that we can see what you were saying. All right, so in that, I believe you went from the top. Okay, so we're in column 1, and you identified from column 1 on the right, far right-hand side, the first sign, which was the star, all the way to, I believe, the you stopped at the leg and foot. So as you can see, there's a lot of signs between these 9 columns, and for time's sake, we're not going to walk through all of the different signs, but that should be enough to show everyone how to do the method, how to do step 2, basically, but you would continue and do that for every single sign. And obviously, if you're looking at this, it's a lot of signs, so it can be tedious work. But as son Damo, brother Damo mentioned, by now, when you're sitting attempting to transliterate or translate, there are certain signs and there's certain prerequisite information that you would have already accumulated and learned and studied and already be proficient at. And one of those things is the memorization of the monoliterals, or sometimes people refer to them as uniliterals. And it simply means uni or mono is one, and then literal is our signs or glyphs that represent one consonant. Okay, so one letter writing, literal for letter. So it represents one letter or one consonant. All right, and we also have biliterals and triliterals, and those mean 2 and 3 respectively. So the monoliterals are a must to memorize because they constitute what we call an alphabet, or closest thing that we would call an alphabet, because they would serve a similar function to what we have as an alphabet in English or any modern language today, which means that they serve as phonetic signs or phonograms. All right, they represent sounds. Okay, so and also I want to comment about so Damo, you mentioned the Gardner codes. You know, we get a lot of questions about the Gardner codes, and one of the questions is in the past is how come we don't use our own codes? You know, why do we use Gardner codes or the Gardner codes? And the short and skinny answer to that is the fact that we have no need to make up our own codes, because the codes are really, they're just a reference point. They're just reference numbers. They're alphanumeric references to all of the different glyphs. And Sir Alan Gardner is the one who put them into a category and made them popular in his grammar publication, I believe in 1927, where he grouped like signs that fit into certain categories or had a common theme, and he put them into categories from A to Z. All right, and then he had another category that he referred to as double A, and those were for signs during his time that were unidentified, you know, as far as what they were or what they stood for or what they were a representation of. And some people use that same double A category and put it for the letter G, because Gardner skipped the letter G. So it's A through Z and double A, and he skipped J. And then more recent lists, particularly with Mark Vigus and his dictionary, instead of using double A, he used J. But those letters and numbers are just conventional alphanumeric references to the signs. So it makes it easy for us to talk about the signs. So for example, if I say G17, you know, people would know that G, the category G is for birds. All of the birds fall up under the category G. All of the vegetation, which means plants and things, will fall under the category M, as in Mary. All of the signs or glyphs that relate to the sky, water, earth will fall under the category of N, as in Nancy. And then they're assigned a numerical number, a sequential number. So G17, instead of me drawing it or have to keep drawing it or what and whatnot, I can, in order to discuss it, I can tell someone, hey, you know, this sign is G17, and they'll be able to have something to look at and reference it, so they will know that's an owl. G1, they will know that's a vulture. M17, they'll know that's a reed leaf. You know, so these are just reference numbers. So it has nothing to do with our interpretation of meaning or anything like that. Those are just reference points, reference numbers. All right. So I just wanted to kind of touch on that a little bit. All right. So that covers step 2. And again, you will go through the entire inscription and do that. But just to show you what you would end up with, this is an example of what Brother Damo had went through and provided. So this is what you would end up writing down, but obviously you would have a lot more for this particular inscription, but this is just the portion that we're discussing. So we had the star first, as you can see here. You write down the Gardner code, which is N14, and then how this particular sign can possibly function. And when we say possibly function, we have to make note that every single sign in Sesh Medew Netcher has the potential to function in one of three different ways. You know, either as a phonogram, either as a logogram or ideogram, and then the third one being a determinative. Okay, and not all of the signs are able to pass through all three, and then one particular sign can only function in one way in any given word. Okay, so I hope that wasn't confusing the way I said it. So in other words, every sign, when it's used within a word, it is only going to function one way, one of those three ways. Okay, either as a phonogram, ideogram, or as a determinative. Okay, so that's what you're going to pay attention to: the Gardner code and the function. So here are the rest of them. I'm not going to read them all, but you see the star, you see the horned viper that was mentioned, the AA1. Okay, now in Mark Vigus's dictionary, this double A is replaced by the letter J, so it will be J1. And this is known as a basket from above in some sign lists, and then other sign lists it will be listed as a placenta with a question mark. So remember, AA, at the time Gardner created these categories, AA was a category of signs that were questionable as to what they really represented in terms of what these objects are. So it was a placenta with a question mark. So some scholars will say that it's a basket from above, and then other scholars will still identify it as a placenta. All right. So that leaves us with step 2. Somebody had a question or a comment?
I just wanted to add on to the it's basically step 2, but can you go back to the picture, the big picture with the because they're in the chat, they were identifying some signs yeah, in the right, and I just wanted to point out some other signs that I didn't see mentioned, but at the top, that black mark up there, that's also a sign. These monkey or baboons are signs on top of the heads. Those are signs right there, and what they're kneeling on is a sign, S21. So I just wanted to point out that since we're on step 2 and they were in the chat, we're trying to identify some signs. I just wanted to point those out.
Okay, yeah, that's an excellent point. and like I said, some people will refer to this picture as a vignette, or as an illustration. Now, like I said before, you can't divorce the illustrations or the figures or the different scenes that are going on in on the temple walls or in the papyri, as we see here. You can't divorce it or separate it from the inscriptions that accompany it. All right. So a lot of times, they go with one another. So what will help you identify what's going on is also the inscriptions and vice versa. All right, so like you said, there are some signs over here that can be identified as the headdress above the two ladies here. What they're kneeling on is a sign, as you said. The black on here looks kind of gray, but this black image here is a sign for the word pet, the sky.
And do I see another one? Okay, you see the little mountains? They're inside the hills.
Right, that's what I was gonna say. You have the left and the right mountain, and this whole entire sign is a sign for the word Jew, which is hill or mountains. And then you have, of course, which stands out is the Jed pillar, and then the Ankh, and then the raised hands and the sun disk. All right, so those are the signs, and also this here on the bottom as well. So you'll be able to identify all of these different things that are going on. All right, so that would be step 2, identify and document each individual sign. All right, and yeah, and I'm not able to see the actual chat if there's any questions. So if anyone's monitoring, you
I
can.
think the brother. Oh, sorry. I think the brother Demo might have got muted, or
Okay, let me
he
just.
left and came back.
All right, let me make sure he's straight. Yep, sure it did. Okay, so that is step 2. Now, step 3 is to group the signs into words to be searched in dictionaries. All right, so basically you're going to take what you have in step 2, you identified everything, and now you're going to group them. Now, the tools to help you group the words or group the signs into words will be those things that you would have learned prior to even making attempts to transliterate and translate. So, we don't cover that on our sessions here. And, our sessions here are not meant to be any exhaustive class or instructions. We have a study course, we have a class that you can register to, and it will provide the links and information at the end, and also in the video link. But there's information that you would have learned, prior to even making these attempts. All right, and it's from that information, from those tools and skills that you gain from what you learn, you'll utilize that. So, and that will bring you to step 3. And let's see here. So, looking at the picture, I believe, Brother June, if you have any of the groupings in column 1, and if you have anything to share, I can lock in on your screen so you can share the dictionary and what some of the words that you grouped together.
Yep, I tried to put them side by side, so hopefully everybody could see that. And we actually have some real good clues in this column. And what I mean is determinatives. I know this sign, and through our research in the sign list, to be a determinant. So to group this first word, I would stop at that one right there. So working with the 2015 Vigus. So there's a couple ways you can search this. You search it by the Gardner code that you gathered from step 2, or you can search them by the transliteration. So let's see. Oh man, it's tripping. So for the first one, we have N14, Gardner code 830, and Y1. So I'll put those in, capitalize it, N14, space dash, space, capital A, 30, space dash, space, capital Y1. Let's see what we want. Man, I might have to go. Let's see. Oh, right here. I pushed those Gardner codes in and then went right to it. Let's see if I can zoom in on it. Can y'all see that? So we got N14, A30, y1. For the next word, we have another, I would say, clue. We have the seated man, which is known to be used as a determinative. So for this next word, in searching it out, I would group these signs right here. So we have for that one, you could do the same thing, which is search out and put in each Gardner code and get to it. Or me, through knowing these signs and working with them, I see the determinatives, and I know that to be Ra. So you could just push in the transliteration and see what we get. Now for this word, it's probably going to be a lot of instances. So working with this, oh, actually it's not, it's 9. Okay. So we'll search it out. Let's see what's going on. My bad. Oh, it's looking up at the other thing. Let me close that out. It's trying to read the other PDF. My bad, John. But basically, let's search this again once I close that. Once again, I'm sorry. I just wanted to try and put the picture up so I could point out, how you can group words better or easier, find little clues that'll help you in your search. Damn, my bad.
You all right? You want the codes?
Huh?
You want the codes?
What's that?
He was asking if you want the code, but if you have the page number, you can go.
Oh, I got the code. It's my computer just tripping. My bad.
Okay. just for the record,
The code. So
we always have a battle between PCs and Macs, and I just want to lay it out there, that once you go Mac, you never go back. I just want to put that disclaimer out there.
No, I have the codes for those. I don't have the picture up on my thing, but hopefully you guys is following along with a picture. I have D21, D36, N5. What's that? Z1, and then A40. So you would get all that, of course, through step 2. So let's see, we'll be looking for D21, starting with D21, and then boom. Okay, but we had the determinative in there. So or is this the page?
Mm-hmm.
June, before you continue, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, in front of your Gardner code, use the closed square bracket. It'll get you there faster. In front of the Gardner code.
Oh, you teach me something. Okay, in the search.
In the search, right.
And what are you saying?
The closed square bracket. Put that
Okay.
first. And then the Gardner codes.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah, getting putting in all the Gardner codes will a lot of times get you there faster if you have them all grouped and you have that information. I was just trying to show the transliteration with that being so common, and my computer tripping out. It's not working out. So that's what I'm gonna do. I gave you guys the codes,
Well,
and I'm
one,
gonna
one
enter it
second.
now.
1 second, June. So on the table is saying like what you have on the screen, you starting out with D21. I don't hit enter yet, but yeah, put the right hand or close square bracket right before that. The no, the closed one, the other one.
Like
Yeah, and the
like
reason
that.
why the reason why that, because if you notice inside of Vigus, um, the first Gardner code in the first position is following a square bracket, but now that's not true. I just want to point this out that that's not true for all of the words, because not all of the words in Vigus will have the part of speech. Because if you notice inside of Vigus dictionary, the part of speech is within brackets. So like what I can see on your screen, you have the word for warfare is a noun, and the word noun is in between the brackets, but not. And then you look at the word above that. I don't think that maybe your thing is blocking it. Yeah, the two above warfare doesn't have the brackets there, so that's a helpful hint, but that's not something to completely rely on, because not all of the words inside of Vigus will have the closed brackets or anything like that. But that's
Oh,
definitely
okay. I see
another
what you.
a good thing to help.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. That is teach me something. And
So I believe you
right
are
here,
actually.
it's basically what was throwing me off is we have that single stroke in the picture.
Right.
But see, we see all the signs right here without the so yeah, flexibility, being flexible, is something that we're just gonna have to deal with when working with this stuff. So next, grouping the signs. Um, this one is let me see. Uh, dang, I wish I can pull the picture back up. But I'm looking at it, and I think for aesthetic reasons, they had to put this little raised bread loaf down kind of almost into the next word. But working with these dictionaries and working with this doing this work, I'm just familiar with you get familiar with recognizing stuff like that, and knowing that maybe this bread loaf should go with the next, you know with the previous signs. So if I didn't, I would first search that to see what I would get. So I'm gonna just let me see. So you could either push in, like I said, the transliteration, or go through and push in all the Gardner codes, and like they said, put the bracket, the closed bracket before that, and it might bring you right to it. But we have it right here, Cafet. Okay. So I don't want to drag this on. If anybody wants to add something to it, because I know they can always if they have any problems or with this step, they can go back to the archives, and
Hmm.
we have plenty of videos that we've been putting up to get more insight on the step. But unless anybody else has something to add.
Okay, now I think that's good. I do want to make a suggestion to all those who are watching and who will be watching the archive. When you're doing step 3 and you're looking up in a dictionary, One of the recommended dictionaries is Mark Vigus Dictionary, which is what you see on the screen shared by the brother June. And this dictionary is excellent for computer work, you know, being able to look up the words a lot faster than flipping through the pages of an actual physical dictionary. But at the same time, we recommend people to get all the resources that you can. You know, don't limit yourself to any one dictionary or anything like that. So we always suggest to get all of the dictionaries, including E.A. Wallace Budge, Mark Vigus, Raymond Faulkner, get Gardner's vocabulary list. He doesn't have a dictionary per se, but he has an extensive vocabulary list. An excellent one is the, but unfortunately it's written in German, is the Wörterbuch dictionary, and that has a lot of words. Now, Mark Vigus's dictionary is highly recommended because it contains all of the entries that Raymond Faulkner has in his concise dictionary of Middle Egyptian. Okay, so he has all of those in there, but the arrangement that he has in there are based on the Gardner codes. So this is why his dictionary is very useful, because you can actually see the different words that are spelt similar but have a different meaning, you know, back to back. And you can actually, like, while you're looking up one word, you won't be able to help yourself but to learn other words that are around the particular word that you're looking at. And then you can see the different variations, and you can actually start to see hints of the different what we call conjugations, or different way that a word is spelled, or different determinatives. Okay, now another thing I would recommend is that when you're using Mark Vigus, you look it up with the transliteration. And the Mark Vigus utilizes, although you're looking at a diacritic transliteration, I don't think we mentioned the difference between the two. There's two main transliteration systems. One is based on diacritics, and the other one is based on case sensitivity. So the diacritic transliteration system is what you see in printed material, and that's the transliteration system where you see the different dots around the words, different dots, underlines, etc. They're called diacritic marks. And then the other system is case sensitive, and that's called manual decodage. Mark Vigus, although you're looking at the diacritic transliteration, but when you search, you search based on the manual decodage. So that also makes it very useful. Okay, and I recommend searching by way of the transliteration first, but make note of your Gardner codes, because you'll end up being a lot faster. And I also suggest that you drill yourself. You know, just pick words at random and just see how fast you can find it. And by fast, I mean sometimes when you, like, for example, what Brother June has on his screen, he has highlighted the word wbn. Now, if you were to type in wbn as your transliteration string to search, you may come away with, let's say, 50 search results, you know, for 50 entries, because there's a lot of words that will be transliterated that way, but they're not all the same words. Okay, so you want to practice that so you can get faster. So if you find yourself having, you know, 50 different search results coming back to you, you want to be able to find the one you're looking for as quickly as possible. So this is when you already know what your Gardner codes are, and I'm not sure if June can pull up. June, can you pull back up your search?
Yeah. Yeah, I also wanted this word was a little tricky too, like, because we had earlier, I think for aesthetic reasons, the signs got what do you call it, transposed or switched around.
Graphically transposed.
Yeah.
Okay, but when your search bar comes up, if you can type in, I guess, let's see, yeah, wbn, all right, and if you can hit search.
34 instances.
Okay. Yeah. Now, if you extend your search, if you widen your search, if you take that rightmost bar and drag it, yeah, drag it to the right. Okay. All right, now, so now you have 34 results or 34 instances back. Now, in order to know the one that you're actually dealing with, this is where, because even in the search results, you can see the Gardner codes. So this is where you can look at the Gardner codes for the particular one that you're looking at. So you're actually utilizing both methods at the same time. And this makes it a lot faster and more efficient to be able to look up these words. Because when you're dealing with a long inscription like this, what we're dealing with, you're going to want to be as efficient as possible, because it can get very, very tedious and even discouraging at sometimes. Okay, so notice that you want to deal with one that has the G43, the D58, and then the N35. So the one that you have highlighted on your search, that one's not it, because it's missing the N35. So you would keep going down until you actually see the Gardner codes string that you have as well. So, and then you can start narrowing down and clicking on it, and it will take you right there inside the document. And that's the one you just clicked on, and that's the one that you need to have. And there you are. So that would be my recommendation, to be faster. So I would use the transliteration first, and then based on your search bar, you can actually see the Gardner codes right after that. All right, and the reason why, because a lot of times when you search for the Gardner string or Gardner codes, the dictionary may not have the exact signs the exact same way that you see it on primary documents or primary sources, such as what we're dealing with, the Papyrus of Ani, or any temple tomb inscriptions, whatever. They may not be exactly listed the same way. So not only do you have to be flexible, but it's just more effective to deal with the transliteration and then just look for the Gardner codes. But you can use all of the above, but I'm making that suggestion to be faster, and you'll find it to be faster. So I would just recommend people to put it to practice and drill yourself. Just keep doing it until you get faster and faster, But so anyway, that's all I had to add. And with that, if nobody else have anything else, we can go on to the next step. So I'm gonna bring it back to my screen. And so you basically gave, okay, so the grouping here in column 1 was this word here, dua. And then we had Ra here with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 signs making up the word Ra. Then you had 3 signs making up the word Chefet. And then you had 1, 2, 3, 4 signs making up the word wbn. And then the horn viper is F, and so on. But for sake of time, we're not going to look up all of the different words. But that's the step. So that's very good. That's to show to demonstrate step 3, and that's how you complete step 3. So that brings us to step 4. Step 4 is to come up with a sensible translation. Now let's back up a little bit. In step 1. The tool in step 1, you don't have to have any tools to complete step 1. Step 2, the tools that you're going to need with that is obviously the Gardner sign list. All right. Step 3, the tools you're going to need is a dictionary. And then step 4, you don't need a tool. All right. So step 1 and 4, you don't need a tool. Step 2 and 3, you do. All right. So now with step 3, actually step 2, that's where you're going to get all of your transliteration information as well from step 2. In step 3, you're going to organize those signs into words, which also by default you're going to be organizing your transliteration consonants to be to be searched inside of the dictionaries. Now transliteration is more of an exact science, where 2 or more people that are dealing with the same inscription, they should walk away with the same transliteration, provided that they're using the same system. And remember, I mentioned 2, the diacritic and then your manual decodage. So if 2 or more people are all using manual decodage and you're dealing with the same inscription, then you should all have the same transliteration. Now, when it comes to translation, that's where it can slightly differ. And the reason for that is because coming from a source language to a target language, there is hardly any cases where you will have a one-for-one translation or something that's very strict. There's always possibilities, because even in the English language, we have what's called synonyms and antonyms. But synonyms, when you're writing something or whatever, some people write with what is called a thesaurus or whatever, where it just lists different other possibilities to say the same thing. You don't want to say something one way, you want to switch it up a little bit. So they provide you with a list of synonyms and things. And because of that, there's different ways to say the same thing, and two people may not pick that same way. And the example I always give is the word hemet, which means some people may translate it as queen, and then another person may translate it as the wife of the king, and then the third person may say king's wife. So queen, wife of king, king's wife. Those are three different ways of saying the same thing. Okay, so I just want to emphasize that. So now when we come to step 4, come up with a sensible translation. Now I know we didn't cover all of the inscription or even all of column 1. So for this step 4, we're just going to open it up, and we can just flow with the inscriptions, kind of similar to how we do Freestyle Fridays. On Fridays we have Freestyle Friday. The difference is we choose not to use any tools, no sign list, no dictionaries, anything. It's Freestyle Friday is where we test our skills, our memory, to see where we are with our familiarity with different words, common words we see all the time, common signs we see all the time, and things like that. So so we can kind of open it up now for the next few minutes and just walk through this inscription column by column and translate it. I have the full picture here, then I have just the columns here numbered so we can know where we are and what we're talking about. So if anyone wants to start, matter of fact, let me just show one more thing first before we do that. Okay, this is the manual decodage transliteration for the entire picture. The 9 columns, and they're numbered here on the left per column. So this is what you would have for manual decodage transliteration. Notice that it's case sensitive, so you have upper and lower case throughout. Okay, this capital A is different than the lowercase a. Capital A is usually the vulture as far as the actual glyph. Lowercase a would be the arm. And it's not always the same because there's other signs that also represent that lower a as well. All right, but it's case sensitive. And this is how it would look with the diacritic. So the same 9 columns, this is how it would look with diacritic. So that uppercase A now turns into what we call a diacritic 3 because it looks like a number 3, but it's not. That lowercase a turns into a reversed apostrophe or comma. And then the X would be an H with the curved underscore, and so on. All right. So I'm just showing both systems, manual decodage, diacritic. All right. So we have the transliteration in full for all 9 columns, but we don't have the translation. So, but the dictionary entries for what Brother June was going through is listed here for the first column. So here's the entire first column for the dictionary entries and the page numbers that you'll find. So I'll just leave it on here for a second. So people that are watching the archive, you'll be able to pause it and just double check your work, your own work, and just verify. So in other words, on page 1235 in the 2015 version of Mark Vigus Dictionary, you'll find the word dua, and this is how it looks, and this is the meaning that's given. Page 75, you have Ra, and then so on. So we have Chafet, wbn, f, m, and then Hr.k, iAbtt, net, pet, in, wsir, Sesh, Medew Netcher, ni, nTrw, Nebu. That's all in the first column. So I believe that's enough so someone could pause it and be able to look it up. So remember, it starts with dua. So remember how that looks, and it ends. This column ends with Nebu. So I'm just going to go back to the picture. So remember, it started. It's column 1. It starts with dua, which is adoration or worship, and then it ends with Nebu. Now, here's the word Nebu here. Now you see, I said it ends, and I have to correct myself. It didn't end with Nebu. Nebu is here, and then it ends with this set of glyphs. The reason why we stopped at Nebu is because this next set is not found in the dictionary. This is actually a person's name, and this is the name of the papyrus that we're dealing with, which is Ani. So this is Ani's name here. Okay, and a lot of names you won't find in a dictionary. All right, and that's actually an indication that it's a name. So sometimes when you're translating or trying to translate something, and you translate everything else, and then you all of a sudden you come to this group of signs, and you can't find it anywhere in a dictionary like that. That is a very good chance that it's a name that you're dealing with. So just keep that in mind. It's another clue. So this is Ani. All right, so yeah, so I'll just leave this picture up, and we can have at it. Can everybody still see the picture?
Two.
Okay. You have to double check, make sure I'm not talking to myself. All right. So, all right. So column 1. Anybody wants to give their translation of column 1? Anybody on the panel? And also, we'll be able to see, like if you give yours, and then if somebody may have worded it a little differently, then we can kind of go over that.
Okay, this is Brother Antoine Germain. You said my translation for the first column. I know that we have dua, which is praise or appreciation, and it said, and I see a Ra. So praise or dua Ra, and we have let me see, I know webbing is rise, so rise. Rise, and I see, let's see, rise, sky, SAR, scribe, I see scribe, S the scribe, let's see what else I see, Netcher, offering, divine offering, nTrw.
I'm gonna try to follow you with my cursor. You
Okay.
said scribe. Okay, here.
Yeah, I'm yeah, dua, Ra, wbn rise, he rise with the F behind it, he rise. Let's see, horizon, AXT, see horizon, and I want to say, let's see with SAR, I want to say PT. Before it was SAR, we had PT, blue sky, and then we have Wasar. Then we have the scribe, which by now that symbol should be stick out, scribe. And then we have Hotep or Netcher, or Hotep Netcher, which is the Hotep symbol right there, and then Netcher, the flag. So it's a scribe of divine offering. And then we have nTrw, Nebu, Ani. So all divine or all divinity Ani. So my translation would be praise Ra, he rises in the sky being praised by wsir, Scribe of Divine Offering of all the gods, Ani. So I know that's kind of choppy, so I left off. I know a couple like XFT, I, capital ABTT. I didn't know those. Two words. I could look those up real quick if we can.
Okay, yeah. See, now that's good because like on Freestyle Friday, if we're not using any tools, then you're basically testing your memory, and what you've already familiar with as far as words and things like that. So that's excellent to be able to do that, But now, obviously, when you're able to sit down and open the tools up, then obviously you'll fine tune it and even so self-correct if you have any errors and things like that. So that's good. Um, but just to kind of go, does anybody else want to take a stab at it, or we go to the next column? But I wanted to make a couple of comments on the first column. So we have dua Ra, which is praises to Ra, and a word that you skipped over was chefet, which is means according to or when, like the word when, as in time. So it would be praise Ra when, and then wbn.f, he rises. So when he rises, and then m, and then achet, which is the horizon. So when he rises in the horizon. And it's not just any horizon, it describes which horizon, which is iAbtt, which is here, which is the eastern horizon. So when he rises in the east. And then net will be of the sky, or some people translate pet as sky, or some people say heaven. And then in would be by, that's in red, by, and then wsir. And if you stop there, you would think that's wsir, Osiris, the husband of Osset, the father of Heru, etc., etc. If you were to stop there, if somebody were to stop there. But this is wsir. Now, this is a testimony that the deceased, in the various different Peret and Heru, they were called wsir, both men and women. Okay, and a lot of people are not familiar with that. So that's something to share with people, that both men and women were called Osiris. Okay, especially in the Peret and Heru, not just in the Peret and Heru, but that's a place where you definitely find that to take place. Okay, so it is the wsir, the Sesh Scribe of Divine Offerings, as you said. Now, where we get divine offerings, it's Hr.k Netcher, which is offering divine offerings, and then you have in, and then nTrw nebu, so of all the gods. So he's the scribe of divine offerings of all the gods, and then the name. So we have Ani there, written right there. So Ani would be at the last. So yeah, that was definitely good. I don't know how much time. How are we looking on time? Because I'm sharing my screen. I can't see the time. Anybody have a time check?
I think we about like an hour and a half in.
Okay, so let's do the next column. Anybody want to take a stab at the next column?
Let's see.
And then after that, I don't know if anybody has any questions on the chat. So after this, we're gonna visit some questions. If there are any, we can go from there.
All right, yeah, it's definitely freestyle right here. Let's see, we have Dd.f. No, that's the E. I forget what that symbol is behind it.
Here.
Yeah, right there. I forget what that symbol is. I have to take a. I know I seen it. I seen it before. Let's see.
Think of Nitch.
I'm stuck.
All right, you know, just keep going past it, and you'll probably come to
Alright. And then under that we have Jed, Hr.k. I think that's any. Where your cursor at? Okay. Yeah, any. That's that. Oh, that's all one word.
Just here. Right.
I kind of forget. I think that means like it's an epithet or something.
So you see two read leaves.
Okay, that's two read leaves. Okay.
And you know, just for people who are viewing, obviously we would have documented every single sign in this entire big echo.
Oh, that's
But yeah, we would have already documented every single sign, performance step 2. So like even when you said, oh, that's two read leaves, the fact that we didn't go through this whole thing and open it up for freestyling, then that's why you would say that. But in normal circumstances, you would know that, just like here where my cursor is, these are two read leaves side by side, just like these two. So it would have made it a lot more clear to you.
So that one symbol that you didn't that we didn't recognize, I looked it up, is J27, and then the two reliefs, that's going to be ET, like ETM hotel. That's the ET.
Yeah.
Let me try and read it. J.F. Inej Hr.k Ani T.m. Kepri M. What's that down there? What is that? Dang, what's the second sign? I can't make that one.
the first. It's like Q. It's like Q and then MA. That's what I'm looking at.
Mock.
Nah. The Q come first.
That would be Kema.
Yeah, come on.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, it look like my eye. It look like my eye, but yeah, that right there come first.
Yep, that's right. I remember that word. So what is that? Kema, and then me, nTrw. I see the nTrw. What's that?
That's Ka.
Ka.k wbn.k.
All right. Good. That was good. Not Ubin. It would be Webin. W.
Yeah, webin.
All right.
Yeah, he says, homage to thee, upon he upon come. What is that? Come, have come with Kepri, and then it says Kepri again with the seed of deity. M with Kama. What's the translation on that?
That is to create.
Okay, create. Then what's the next two signs? The owl and then something behind the owl. Oh, is that just a phonetic
That's
complement?
Yeah, that's the whole word for Kema. So
Okay.
you have the owl and then you have the throwing stick.
To make the gods, and then what's this next one? Ka. What's the translation on that?
That's your appearance or to appear. You appear.
That's right. You appear when you rise, or he. My bad. Yeah, you rise is the last grouping.
All right. Good. So Netonica, you want to give your, if you have anything different for column 2, the same column, if you can give your rendition of column 2.
I think it's pretty much the same. Let's see. It's pretty much the same as Brother June had it. I'll just go because I cannot see the top of it from my screen. I'll just check it out from the PDF. Yeah, so that is he says homage to thee, who comes as xpri, who creates who create the gods. You appear.
Okay. All right.
And you appear and you rise. Pretty much the same.
All right. Okay, so excellent. That's good. And and that's also good, definitely without using the help of books and sign lists. We detailed the part of column 1 for time's sake. That's why we kind of moved on into freestyle mode of doing it. And see, by doing so, you'll just sharpen up your skills automatically, naturally, and through a progression of time, you'll become faster and faster, better and better at doing this. And you'll start recognizing words like Dd.f. You'll know that Jed is a word, and then F would be a suffix. So Dd.f, he says, and then Hr.k, and that's a common thing. That's a common thing to hail someone. They translate it as hailing, or to give homage, but you're hailing, the person. And then, basically it's a form of greeting, a very respectful greeting. And then et, we all say that a lot when we greet people. I say it at the beginning of this session. Et Hotep, which welcome in peace. So we have et xpri. So who comes or came, and then m can mean in, as in like inside something, in, therein, in, and things like that. But it also means as. So comes as. And in Rani Kemet, or as scholars, as Egyptologists will say, Middle Egyptian, but in the language, a lot of times when they wanted to identify someone, they wouldn't just say what you are. They would say that you're coming as a particular thing. So we have this m, this preposition, but this m, and they call that an m of perdition. I believe I may be pronouncing that wrong, but it's like you as something. So I would say the brother Robert as June, or instead of saying that what you are directly, I would say you are you, but you are coming as something. So this is an example of that. So it came as xpri, and then xpri again, and then as again, and then the creator, Kama, the creator of the gods or the divinities, the nTrw, and then you appear as well as you rise. So yeah, so that's good. I just wanted to kind of just add that in there. But for time's sake, we don't have time to go through every single column. But this is plate 1. So for those who are watching and those who will be watching the archive, this is the very beginning of the Papyrus of Ani. So if you have any version that you have, whether you have a store-bought version like E.A. Wallace Budge, Papyrus of Ani, or whoever's version, this will be the very first thing that you see when you open the books. This is the first plate, the start of the papyrus. It starts off with adorations to Ra, as you see in column 1, praises to Ra. And this is the famous hymn to Ra. So if we were to continue reading it, this is one of the hymns to Ra. You can Google it and find the actual hymn in English or whatever, and just see it. It's a famous hymn to Ra. You have a hymn to Ra. You have a hymn to Osiris or wsir. That's within the same papyrus, and we're going to get to that later on a different sheet or a different plate. But well, with that said, like I said, we don't have time to go through the whole thing. But if anybody had any questions in the chat, I'm about to close my screen out so I can check out the chat, and we could just have some discussions until time runs out. So anybody has any questions or comments? Anybody on the panel have any comments? I see. Let me just try to catch up and backtrack on the chat. I see we have brother Shezmu Patah, Jehuti Ma'at. Let's see, Hr.k, Netcher, Sean P, Jehuti's Learning Center. I believe that's brother Adrian, or wsir Hr.k. I guess I'm just giving roll call shout outs. Looking for any questions or comments, anything to stick out. Is the picture available somewhere? Yeah, this you can Google Papyrus of Ani plate 1, and I believe you'll probably find a decent copy, a decent picture of it. Let's see. Can the brother zoom in the dictionary so the font is larger? Oh, okay. Well, we are kind of past that. I apologize for that, brother Jehuti.
So,
yes, Q.
I got a question. When you transliterate and translate, can a person look at your translation and say that your translation is wrong because it lacks spirit, or it lacks spirit? I don't quite understand that. So if the translation can be wrong if they look at it and it lacks spirit.
Oh, yeah, I don't know what someone could possibly mean. The only thing I could think of if somebody were to say something like that is, you have because I used to call it robotic or strict mechanical. I used to call it mechanical or robotic translation, where you translate things word for word and it has no smoothness or gracefulness within the language that you're translating in. So in our case, it would be English. So like that's like to take a text from another language like we're doing and bring it into English, but it sounds real jagged. It sounds real stiff and real like 90-degree angles and no smooth curves. That's the only thing I could think of when somebody says something like that. But to say there's no spirit, I don't think people need to take it off into something other than what I just said, but there are people who do translate like that, where it's real stiff and rigid. It's almost like the difference between going to, for anybody who's ever been to church, and you don't have to confess, but anybody who has been a Christian or still is a Christian or whatever the case is, you go to church. If you ever visit a Catholic church versus a Baptist church, it's almost like night and day. A Catholic church is very, very, they would say has no motion, no spirit, no soul in there. It's like everything is Dominus Homos Spiritus Sanctos, and shaking the little thing with the incense and throwing the holy water and all that stuff. But you go to a Baptist church, man, you got the organ, you got the choir, you got the shouting, you got the whole thing. You got people. I mean, at any given minute, somebody pop up out the seat next to you and start just dancing and whatever. So it's stirring up the soul. So people do these translations like that where you're not moved by it. You're not moved by it at all. So that's the only thing I could think of when somebody says something like that. But now on the technical, okay. 1 minute.
Oh no, I'll go on. Yeah, I didn't understand that either, as far as your translation not being spiritual enough. Is it looking for a deeper meaning behind what we translate, or that question was confusing as well?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I said so. So I said everything I just said. That's one thing that I've seen people say, and that's true. I'm saying that that actually does take place where people will translate things very, very rigid, and it doesn't move you at all. You know, it's like reading a very stale, boring book, novel. But so that's one thing, and then the other thing that that could possibly mean is what I said earlier in the show, which is um, all across the continent of Africa in ancient times, even still to this very day, in living African traditions, the documentation of scientific data is done so in what we call today figure by way of figure of speech. So you have a literal translation, and then you have to pierce that literal veil and see the realities behind the different metaphors, the different allegories, and the different symbolisms. So that could be a possible meaning when somebody says, "Hey, you know, your translation lacks spirit." It means or lacks spirituality, meaning you know somebody may be looking for the realities behind the symbolisms or the realities behind the metaphors. You know, so that's something that could be at play there,
Now that
and some of that definitely goes on, and a lot of people don't know the realities behind it, and that's where a lot of the guesswork comes in, and then people, based on their guesswork, they'll push the guesswork, and then people will rally behind that, and then that becomes a blown out belief system, you know,
so
like
is this something that's given in like in a Facebook, or is this something that's given in a institute, or what? What determines when this information should be shared?
well, that's the difference between, you know, like, see, we have to just take things in its everything in its proper context, proper perspective. You know, a lot of people emphasize this esoteric versus um I say esoteric versus what's the other one? You have esoteric and
Esoteric and exoteric.
right, esoteric and exoteric. Thank you, Dua. Um, Esoteric, you know, people emphasize that as if it's something other than what it is. And I know Brother Asar Mutab recently did a post about it, and you know, I discuss it. I mention this all the time that um, even in conversations dealing with you know different sororities, different fraternities, different so-called secret or sacred societies, when the topic of esoteric information comes up, it really simply means something that very few people know, or a piece of information that you have to be part of a some kind of closed group to learn about. It's not that the information is special, because there can be esoteric um, misinformation. It could be a esoteric a bunch of esoteric information that all deals with Star Wars characters or Star Trek characters, all fictional stuff, you know, and the people that's within that knowledge knows that it's fictional and the whole nine. So esotericism and esoteric information simply means information that a small select few people know, and the only reason why it's a small number is because of the way and or the manner in which you have to obtain it. That's it.
It's surface and inner. You know, you reading information reading information from the surface standpoint when you're dealing with the exoteric, and then you what they call decoding. You going inside exoteric. You going inside the information. When
Well,
you
see,
deal with exoteric, but I mean, I asked that because I was confused because exactly I'm not bashing the elder, but he gave an exoteric. I did a transliteration a while back. I did a couple of them through on my page, and one of them one of them the guy shared, and the picture got shared. People shared one of the pictures out of about 5 or 6 I did, just kept sharing, and this elder seen it. So I mean, he said it lacked its spirit or something like that. Then I asked him, I told him I went through the proper methodology and transliterating and translating. I translated, it is saying exactly what it is saying on the wall.
And then I asked for his translation, and then he went into an exoteric thing. He didn't give the translation of what it said in the background and then went deeper into the information as what I transliterated. He just gave some type of exoteric thing, and then he went into some other stuff, and I just, asked for his translation so I can compare his translation or his transliteration and translation with mine. But when he said that spirit part, so that what made it my translation wrong, because of the spirit part. I was told. I didn't know. I didn't
No,
understand.
no, no, no. See, the thing is okay, we had to be careful, or people had to be careful when they say things like that, because in a lot of the different African traditions, and this comes with the familiarity with African cultures, plural, African cultures, period. We have living African traditions that still do this all day, every day. There are levels to the way in which information is transferred from one person to another, or from one generation to another. And a lot of times information is given by way of an initiatory environment. Now over here in the West, or in the Western culture, we're up under Western influence, etc. We will call it an educational system. We have from K through 12, and then people graduate high school, they go into college if they so choose to do so. But on the continent, and in ancient times, even still today, what we would call an educational system is more like an initiatory system, whereas it provides a controlled environment. Because believe it or not, our school systems has a strict curriculum, or supposed to have a curriculum. It's supposed to create a controlled environment where you have a teacher that teaches a particular subject to a certain fixed number of students. So the average elementary school may have a classroom full of 20 to 30 students, and the teacher teaches, let's say, English grammar or math. But that setting provides a controlled environment, so the teacher can control the meeting of the mind between themselves and the students. That way the teacher can define the terms, make sure that the students understand the terms the way they're supposed to be understood, and then march forward in progress. So it eliminates the haphazardness, the randomness, the all over the placeness that a non-controlled environment would result in. So we have to be careful. So in other words, in Africa, the same concept applies. So information was given in different levels, and people can the most popular expose on this, what I'm talking about, is with the Dogons. If anybody grabs the book called The Pale Fox, or even the secondary book, the complementary book with that, which is the interview with the Dogon priest. The name escapes me right now, but there's two books, The Pale Fox, and then the interview with the Dogon elder. And if you read those two books, you'll see clear as day that the Dogon express, and they tell these people that stay with them for that extended period of time, that information is passed on in layers, and they have technical names for these different layers. I believe they have four different layers, and they call it the word, and then they have an adjective that describes the level. So it's the first level word, but it'll be surface information, and then the next level on up to 4 levels. By the time you get to the 4th level, this is when you get the realities and the applications of the information that you have learned in the previous levels, and this is all explained. So when somebody says something like, your translation or whatever lacks spirit, on Facebook, you can only expect so much. Facebook is not a controlled environment. It's not an initiatory environment where things can be properly defined, properly discussed without being diverted and confused and people jumping on posts and trolling it or whatever the case is. So it's not a very good environment to even have a very in-depth conversation. You can talk about different things, you can share information, and it's no problem, especially if you're already dealing with somebody who is of like mind with yourself. Then yeah, you can have a very, very fruitful conversation. But just in the wide open like that, it's very hard. So you're not going to find that. So when people do these translations or lack spirit, there's a lot to explain with different translations. Like for example, the word spirit. There's a lot of confusion about the word on on the word spirit, like certain key words, the word God, the word spirit, the word worship, the word religion. You know, people use these words, and everybody walks around with their own dictionaries in their head. So everybody that talks and try to convey this stuff, if they don't define how they're using it, then the assumption is they're using it the way you understand it, and that may not be the case. And a lot of times it's not the case. You know, I could walk into a room of 100 people and say, what does God mean, or who is God? And man, I may get, like, out of 100 people, I may get 5 different answers, a total of 5 different distinct answers out of those 100 people. So how do you resolve that? So you resolve that by having a controlled environment, and you define the terms. And this is how any subject is taught. You know, science, chemistry, genetics, biology, you know, astrophysics, all these different major scientific fields and discipline, they're taught by even law. They have a certain nomenclature that matches the study. And everybody that takes up the study or takes up a course, takes up a class, they understand what these words mean within the context of that particular study. So African spirituality, whatever people want to call it, it's no different. So in order for us to teach African spirituality, we're supposed to approach it no different than how the highest sciences are approached, such as, like I mentioned, chemistry, astrophysics, quantum mechanics, and law, or whatever the case is. You have to define these terms. And just to give an example, a quick example, in a legal context, the word person, person, has a different meaning than just the lay general vernacular on the street person. You know, in the legal terms, a business can be a person. Just like how on a regular conversation, the word spirit will have a certain meaning. But if you come into an initiatory setting, the word spirit, especially in Kemet, it takes on a different flavor. There is no homogeneous single spirit in Kemet. The spirit is broken down into components and parts. This is why people translate all these different words as spirit. You have the Ak, or the Aku, translated as spirit. The Ba is translated as spirit and soul. The Ka is translated as spirit, double personality. The Sahu is translated as spirit. What else is translated as spirit? The Kaibit translated as spirit. But the reason why they all translated as spirit is because they are components of what others would call a spirit. But it's not really a match for spirit, you know, from the Latin, you know, to breathe or whatever. You know, it's not a direct match with that. So the only way we can explain it and to have some progress and learn something is to have a controlled environment where we can properly define these things. So I say all that to say that, you know, with these translations that we do, even the one we just did, like, you know, we're just reading, you know, the Adorations of Ra when he rises in the eastern horizon of the sky. And then by the wsir scribe of the royal offerings of all the gods, Ani. That's just what it says. That will be a certain level of that. But then if we read the whole entire plate or the whole entire inscription, then we can get into the other layers of it and what's really going on. Like the entire Book of the Dead. The entire Book of the Dead, or the Paretim Heru, people think that it's just a book that a dead person was buried with, knowing good and well that dead people don't read. You know, they don't talk, they don't walk. So those are not literal things that are, you know, where something else is going on. You know, something else is intended or intentionally there, or, you know, the intended meanings are there. But the only way you could really get into those things is in a very controlled environment. Not a secret environment. It's just something that is controlled to maintain integrity. Because you don't want people walking out, like if I say, you know, 1 + 1 is 2, and I taught that into a class of 100 people, I want everybody to walk out the class all saying the same thing. 1 + 1 is 2. I don't want 10 people over here saying 1 + 1 is 3, and then 50 people over there saying 1 + 1 is 6, or anything. That's not how it works, and that's not how we should operate. So that's why we have these controlled environments. I mean, I know I kind of went on a rant, but yeah, that's pretty much how, you know, So I don't know. I wasn't in the conversation with that or see what the elder says, but I've seen similar things like that. But you know, it's understood. People need to just kind of be a little flexible because it should be understood that you know you can only get but so far on Facebook, number one, and then two, um, there's figure of speech and myths that are going on that are not to be taken literal. A good example is recently a hot topic is the topic of evolution. You got people who will be opposed of the theory of evolution, but at the same time they will, in their opposition to the theory of evolution, they will bring up the fashioning of man on the potter's wheel by a half human and half ram figure that's pumping out these human beings. So I doubt that any adult would take that literally. I doubt. I mean, I would like to think that no adult actually believes that there's a half man, half ram person or being that sits on the potter's wheel and takes clay and mold people, and that's how people got here. But that is what's implied in the visual. Like you see it. You see Khnum. I'm speaking about Khnum. Khnum molding the ba and the khat, or the body and the ba of people. But there's a reality behind that. That's a metaphor. That's allegory. That's symbolisms there. That's not literal. It's not literal. There's no half man, half beetle-headed person. There's no half man, half dog or dog-headed person. No falcon-headed person living now or ever lived. You know what I'm saying? So there's realities behind these different things. So we have to get back into the mind and have a paradigm shift to get back into the mind and understand how these cultural nuances, cultural idioms, and the realities behind all of the allegories, metaphors, narratives that we call myths. We have to get to the reality behind these things. That's what that and that's why we deal with the language, because that's stage one. That's step one. Step one is to master the language, because we can get to that level one where we have a full understanding of what is written. Bam, that's what's written. And in the process of learning that what's written, because we know the culture is encoded in the language. The language is DNA of culture. By you doing that, you'll start to absorb some of the cultural things, and then we have living African traditions that are related, that we can confirm and refute these things, or put the piece of the puzzle together to figure out the different realities behind the figurative speech. So just wanted, I give another example of an idiom. Like today, I'll say something like, hey, that shirt or those shoes are hot. Where you get those from? I like to get some. Where, tell me where you get those from. Those are hot. Now, anybody I'm talking to nowadays, they'll understand exactly what I mean by that. That's an idiom that, I like the shoes or the shirt. Tell me where you got it from. Or more famous metaphor is I got butterflies in my stomach. I don't literally have butterflies in my stomach, but it's a metaphor to stand in for the reality that I'm nervous. So I'm experiencing nervousness, but I'm describing it in a metaphoric way by saying I got butterflies in my stomach. So if you're not up on my use of the metaphor, then later on, 500 years from now, 1,000 years from now, if I wrote that down, you find it and you read it, you're gonna think that 1,000-year-old human beings had butterflies in their stomach, like we ate butterflies or something. So this is an example of we have to tap in and get to the realities behind the different figures of speech. All the way from the representation of the different nTrw, down to just the everyday cultural nuances that we see. All right, so that's something that we have to be aware of. And I'll give you a language one, a grammatical one. Like I used the one the phrase awud ib, and the word awud means to lengthen something, to stretch. It's a verb to stretch or to cause to widen, right? And then ib is a word that means heart. Um, so together, awud ib, the phrase means to lengthen or widen the heart, but nobody's going around stretching anybody's heart, or it's not even meant that way literally, but that's what it literally says. But what the meaning is, what the semantics behind that phrase means, it just simply means joy or happy. It's a way of saying you're happy. So awud ib means happy. It means happy, but each individual word would be literally stretching heart. So that's just a quick example, and we do it all the time. We have a lot of those in English. Same thing. So I know I was talking a minute, but how much time we have left? We're over 2 hours now, right?
Probably. I don't know.
Do we have any
We did have a
other questions?
we
Whatever.
did have a question though. Someone asked in the chat, what book of coming forth by day is your favorites?
Oh,
Yeah. So I would say to try and get a hold of all of them, or as much as you can, because we know that the Papyrus of Ani is like the most popular or uh, most accessible, but to search out and find all the Peret Imherus that you can find is what I would say. I don't have a particular favorite. I'm just trying to get my hands on all of them.
yeah, that's good. To get them all. As far as favorite, yeah, that would be hard for me to say. That's like people ask me what's my favorite color, but um,
Yeah.
I say the same thing. I tell people to get all of them. I tell people to get all of the resources you possibly can. The different Pret Imheru.
Let me add some, and another good reason about getting all of them is because all these chapters, there's like, I think over 200, chapters total, and most of the editions or most of these Pret Imherus have certain chapters, and some of them have chapters that you won't find in other ones. So that's why it's so good to get the books from other people also, because they'll contain other chapters that may not be in other papyruses.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you turn to the back of Faulkner's work, it gives you a list of the chapters that are missing and tells you which per Imheru you can find them in. So like there might be chapter or palette for any is palace, but for others might be different. But it may be chapter 14 missing or chapter 37 missing. It'll say refer to Hr.k or Nebesh or someone else to get that missing chapter or what have you.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's good to get them all because the Pret Imheru stretch it expands a certain eras of time as well. Starting with the Middle Kingdom all the way up to the Ptolemaic era, and then, like you said, there's different chapters. And the Pret Imheru comes out of the coffin, what they call the coffin text, and then so you kind of see a progression or some similarities from the pyramid, what they call the pyramid text. And mind you, the pyramid text wasn't called the pyramid text, and the coffin text wasn't called the coffin text, just like the Book of the Dead wasn't called the Book of the Dead. But for sake of what people are familiar with, you have the pyramid text, which gives way to the content of the coffin text, which gives way to the content of the books of the dead or the Peret Imheru. And there's various Peret Imheru, Ani being the most popular. And some of them, they are kind of hard to find because Egyptologists have not done an extensive work on the others like they have with Ani. And because Budge's work was so popular or still is, then Ani is what most people know about and familiar with. You know, like I believe it's only 37 chapters, but June, you said it right, it was over 200. 200, and most of those numbers are coming
Yeah.
from, I believe, Lepsius numbering, how those were numbered, and it stretches out to over 200.
I think the most in one papyrus or Peret Hr is 180.
Yeah, a good one to get though, like I said, I don't think I can answer the favorites. I would say get them all, but a good one that has a considerable amount would be the Papyrus of Nu.
Yeah, I think that's the one that's close to 180.
hmm You know, so but then some people ask that question, out of the Papyrus of Ani, which one is the best to get? I know that some people ask that question, and I always recommend to get anything that is interlinear, meaning anything that shows the primary source, which will be the hieroglyphs or whatever the case is, and then the transliteration, and then the translation. Because when authors do that, they're basically disclosing to you all of the tools you need to check behind them. So people who dislike Budge, they can look at Budge's Papyrus of Ani, and they can see the glyphs, they can see his transliteration, they can see his translation. And so anything you don't like, you can be specific and you can correct it or refute it, contest it, agree with it, or whatever the case is. But it allows you to check behind the author. So I always recommend anything interlinear. You know, when you're dealing with just strictly English, then it's really hard. You're basically just opening yourself up to just fully accept whatever the author is saying, and that's cool, but that's not for any anybody who's seriously trying to research or trying to move towards accuracy, because there's no way for you to check it out. And then a lot of people still write in this thee, thou, thither, shall, and that kind of
Yeah,
English.
that's why it's good what we doing, because as I look, I have about four of the Papyrus of Ani, and as I look at the translation compared to what we come up with, it's often differences.
hmm
So
hmm
I would agree with what you said, and I would also say for getting the Papyrus of Ani to also get all of them, it's good to have the ones with the pictures, but yeah, the interlinear one does come to be very helpful.
hmm Right. So hopefully that answered that. But any other questions? Because I didn't see any questions. Been kind of a quiet this time, I guess. You know, a lot of people are catching on, to method. Basically, we emphasize a method, tep hesed, which is correct method, and we can't emphasize it enough. There's a method to the madness, as they say. You know.
Before we get off the phone, as you speak about the method and doing proper research, I guess one thing I just want to reiterate is as far as not only in dealing with the language, but make sure that we're doing proper research and dealing with the Facebook posts we may see, or dealing with any research that we're doing, that we're able to go back to our main source as opposed to just believing what we hear.
Yeah. Well, I guess when it comes to the language, I see a lot of people post pictures and then start speaking about what they see in the pictures or talk about the language, and just research, period. There's methods to research, and I would recommend anybody that wants to be a researcher and anyone who's seeking to find the accuracy, a level of accuracy of information, because anybody can say anything, but you want to develop methods or skills at discernment. You want to be able to discern fact from fiction, what is live and what is memorex, as they say. So you want to be able to get to the truth or the heart of something. And that takes method. And that's all wrapped up in science. You know, people have this love-hate relationship with science, saying science is a European thing, but that couldn't be farther from the truth, because science originated among Africans. You know, the scientific method that we use today comes out of Africa. You can see it clear as day within Kemet. Kemet's not the only civilization or the only people that use that method. It's spread out in Africa. It's just that the method of documentation is strange to us, because there's a separation nowadays between church and state. So they have this split here where one is opposed to other. So religion is at odds with science. You know, that's how we see it today. But on the continent, and especially in ancient times, true religion, there was absolutely nothing wrong with it. Matter of fact, the word religion is being misused today. That's why I always refer to it as belief system, because a true religion, there's nothing wrong with a religion, you know. But science and religion were neatly packaged together in ancient times, or on the continent even to this day, you know. But today we separate church and state, so you have this political aspect or whatever that's separate from religion, which gives way to the separation of, you know, religion and science, or whatever the case is, the different sciences, and they seem to be at odds, but they were one and the same in ancient times. It's just that the documentation of the scientific information was done in a figure of speech. So those who are not privy, as we said earlier, those who are not on the inside, and this is where you get the esoteric versus exoteric concept from, or these contrasts from, those who are not within that controlled environment to learn the realities behind the metaphors, allegories, symbolisms, and so on and so forth, all you can walk away with is the metaphor itself, and then you take the metaphor wrongly. You have a wrong interpretation of the symbolism of the metaphors, and you go and you run with it, and then you create an entire system around that misinterpretation or misrepresentation, and that right there is what becomes a belief system that today we call a religion. So that's how that comes in. So, you know, when you're doing research, there's proper methods to follow, and it just depends on the research question. And believe it or not, people have to, you know, we have to learn how to ask questions. You know, we have to learn, you know, the proper ways of asking questions. What are the research questions? And then based on your research question, that will determine what subset of methods that you're going to use, what tools you're going to use to address that question. You know, you have to take a different route if you are a biogeneticist. You're going to use a certain set of standards, methods, and procedures to formulate your research question, test it, and the whole nine. That's different from somebody else in a different field. So you have to learn the proper method for the question at hand. You know, so in the case of languages and things, you know, we have the scientific discipline of linguistics, which is a broad discipline, but up under that umbrella you have, you know, you have phonology, you have phonetics, you have historical comparative linguistics, you have you know, several different branches of linguistics. So it all depends on what you are you know, researching, and you have to apply the methodology, the proper methods to do so. So that's real important. So when it comes to this particular, what we do with the Sesh Medew Netcher and inscriptions and things like that, you know, there's a method, and that's what we're stressing on these Divine Words Wednesdays, the 4 steps. Everybody who translate goes through these 4 steps. Those methods are like law. They're immutable. You're going to go through those 4 steps, you know, and you have to have the proper tools. Now, you know, it's not a class session. And by the way, you know, before we get too, I know we've definitely gone over 2 hours, but I do want to, for those who are going to be watching the archive and listening live now, there is a class available, and actually right now I'm looking to start a new class group. And usually I start a new class group once I get 3 or more people that agree to a day of the week. Right now there's a class going on that meets on Sundays. Sundays from 7 to 9. So all of the other days of the week are open other than Wednesday. So Monday and Tuesday are open. So I'm looking to start a new class group. So if anybody's interested, they can go to the website www.mdw-nTr.com, and it's in the link under this video when it archives. It's mdw-nTr.com, and you can come to Sesh Medew Netcher group page, Facebook group, and chime in, join the group, ask questions, share information, or anything like that. Find out more about the class. But the class is a beginner's class, and it's designed to go along with the book that's being used as a textbook, which is a beginner's introduction to Medew Netcher. So right now I'm looking to start a new class group. Another group ended, and it frees up some days. So I have one going on right now, but the other days are open. So anytime I get 3 or more, and then I start a new group, and then if 3 more or whatever, however many people that want to take the class at the same time, it's open. So you get in touch with me. I'm wbn.f on Facebook, or anybody among the Seshew Medew Netcher. Let them know, and then they'll let me know, wherever the case is. And like it was said in the beginning, the group Seshew Medew Netcher, we have a Facebook group and everything, but we're actually an organized group, small group right now, but it's open. And the only requirement to become part of the group is, because we want to maintain the integrity of the group, you have to make sure that you are proficient at a beginner's level of Sesh Medew Netcher. So whether you take the class with me or a different teacher, or use my book or a different person's, somebody else's book or somebody else's classes, it doesn't matter. But the only thing that we require is that you have to show and demonstrate proficiency. So therefore we give a test, a 100-question test, and you have to be able to show that you can transliterate and translate some simple inscriptions. And once you can show that, then you're more than qualified and welcome to join our group. And that's only in place, like I said, to maintain integrity, because we're not just doing this just for the heck of it. We have projects that are ongoing, and we're putting together some work that we hope that a lot of people will benefit from, and the next generations coming after us will benefit from. All right, because we're actually putting in work. We're learning this, and we're actually putting in the work that a lot of people, some people will even complain about. How come we don't have our own Gardner codes? How come we don't have our own translations of this and of that? Well, jump on board and be a part of that progress. These huge projects. Excuse me. So just wanted to kind of put that out there. So anybody else have Sean says, do you guys kind of lean on that first transliteration to open up a second group, if that is the right way to ask that? A clue, so to speak. Yeah, Sean, I'm not quite sure what you're asking. If you could hear me, I had to reword that. Unless somebody else knows and wants to answer that.
Are you talking about step 3?
Oh, when doing step 3.
Well,
okay. Do you guys lean on that first transliteration to open up the second grouping, if that's the right way to
oh, okay, because he's getting the translation from each sign. In some occasions I say that will work, but like I was saying earlier, going through that step, the determinatives will help a lot. So when you get those first group of signs and you see that that the papyrus roll can be used as a determinative, that's kind of like a clue of grouping to search for, and you'll get more familiar with the determinatives the more you work with it, and that'll be I think one of the biggest helps in grouping stuff.
Yeah.
And
Also,
then having
also
the
in
transliteration there is just backup.
Yeah. Also, in the grouping, one thing I noticed is that like behind the netters, I always make that a new group to help me out as well when I see a seated man or what have you.
Yeah, and I could say this that yeah, that's right on point about the determinatives. There are about 70 determinatives that are common, and I'm only saying common because there's more than 70 determinatives, but there's about 70 that 70 that you, if you memorize those 70, then man, you are have no problem doing this at all. So like it just comes with time. That's why we stress at the beginning. You know, one of the things that this process shows or demonstrates is that with time, discipline, and patience, that you'll be able to do this. And I like to stress discipline and the patience, because you have to have some stamina to stick with it. Just like anything else, you can't lose weight if you're just going to go to the gym one time out of the year. So you have to put in the time, and it's just going to naturally come. It's just going to naturally come. You're going to just get familiar with it. But now, what our hurdle is that we don't have a speech community where we can put it to use right away. So that kind of hurts us. Like, because when you're learning Spanish, let's say you're in school and you learn Spanish, or you're taking a Spanish course or French course, non a very high percentage there's a high percentage chance that you'll be able to put it to use, because you'll have either some Spanish speaking friends or some French speaking friends or whatever, in your neighborhood or at your place of work, business, etc. But with this, Rodney Kemet or Sesh Medew Netcher, you're not going to be able to learn something and turn around to the next man and say, hey, Petro Neck, what is your name? And they're going to look at you like you're crazy. So that kind of that works against us. But we are working to solve that by reviving the language to create speech communities, and taking this course, learning the language, whether you take the course with me or not, just taking the course and learning a beginner's level and work your way up through the grammar, and then learning some aspects of linguistics, basic general linguistics, you'll qualify yourself to participate in the revival of the language, so that we can create speech communities, so that we can start speaking it to each other. So that way our children coming up behind us, they can have it as a co-mother tongue. They can, how people that grow up, especially in Spanish-speaking households, children learn Spanish, but they learn English at the same time. So we can start that. We can have that, and that's one of the things that we are working on. It's a project that's going on right now, that is working at providing the best historical accuracy to the pronunciations of these words. Because like I don't know, we didn't mention it tonight, but when people talk about these words, when they say Uncle Jasaneb, Hotep, Etm Hotep, Peterinek, Reni, all of these different things that we say, Dua Ra, even if you want to pronounce the entire hymn to Ra or whatever, what we're doing when we do that is we're pronouncing it in what we call Egyptology speak, or more properly called classroom pronunciation. And all that is a standardized convention that early Egyptologists came up with to be able to discuss the language. Now, to their credit, they never intended it, and they never claimed that those pronunciations are historically accurate. They'll let you know right up front that these pronunciations are simply tentative, conventional pronunciations. That's it. And they stuck an E between each of the consonants. That's why we say Seneb, Seneb. Seneb for the word health. So what one of the goals of the project is to accurately revoice the language by using the scientific tools that are available, and in this case will be the historical comparative method in linguistics, to compare Middle Rani Kemet, or the different languages in Kemet, with living African languages today that are related to it. And that's a very, you know, in-depth process. And it's no different than how a biogeneticist will test the relationships between two people or groups of people by testing their DNA. You know, there's methods that they do, methods that they can rely on, so much so that court cases are overturned, rape cases, what do you call it, paternal cases are either confirmed or refuted, you know, based on the science. So the same thing that can be done with languages. Languages can be tested to determine the relatedness to one another and the proximity of that relationship, whether it's a direct relationship, whether it's close, whether it's distant, is a distant cousin, or whatever the case is. And the scholar who's pioneering that work is Jean-Claude Mboli. He's written in 2010. He wrote a book called The Origin of African Languages, and it's written in French. And it's basically probably the most unbiased piece of work on that subject. And I say unbiased because what he did was he dispensed with all of the previous known assumptions of the language families, whether it was Niger-Congo, Nilo-Saharan, Afro-Asiatic, Khoisan, and so on, and all the sub-families that come out of those. He dispensed with it all and started from scratch, started with his own language, Shango, and compared it to what they call Middle Egyptian. Then he expanded with five other languages, and formulated a working hypothesis, if you will, and then tested the hypothesis by adding 8 more languages, used 8 more languages to test it. And it came out to test positive, or, you know, the whole process. And his book is over 630 pages long, where he walks you through that entire process. It's a very, very technically written book. It's in French. Even if it was in English, it's written very, very technically. You definitely would have to have some linguistic knowledge up under your belt. There's no way around it. There's no shortcuts to that. Just like there's no shortcuts in doing DNA testing. There's no shortcuts to any serious astrophysicists, you know, theoretical physicists, or any of these scientists. Linguistics is no different. But we kind of take linguistics for granted because, see, language is something that we use. You know, that's a common human phenomenon. Communication. We all communicate. You know, even people who can't talk or can't hear, we have sign language and things like that. So communication is something that we take for granted because we all do it. We do it from birth. But something like astrophysics and things like that, that's not something that you use every day. Like, it's not something that humanity uses by default, like it does communication. So we kind of respect that more because we see it as a field that you got to jump into. Like, you got to, like, it's over there, it's sitting over there, and then we got to go into it. And therefore, okay, I have interest, therefore I'm going to go into it and learn it. And you respect it more. But when it comes to languages, because we use it every day, all day, when somebody comes along and we discuss the science of language, which is linguistics and stuff, people tend to kind of not respect it as much, or not to see it in the same light. And I see that a lot. So we have to change that. We have to change that attitude. But anyway, Jean-Claude Mboli is the pioneer. Has written an excellent work. I recommend everybody to get his work, whether you can read French or not. Get his work, because by supporting his work, even if you can't read French, then it will open the way for an English version to be produced. And then also, you know, just by being French, it shouldn't stop you, because there's a lot of translation programs, applications online. You got Google Translate. You know, you can get by. But the key thing, like I said, even if it was written in all English, it's a very technical book. So you have to study linguistics as well. but just for the support, I recommend everybody to get his work. But anyway, so that's that. I don't know if there was any more comments or questions. Anybody else have anything to add for tonight before we close out?
Shem Hotep, and do all for listening in.
All right. I just want to remind everyone about Freestyle Friday. So Friday we'll be right back at you. Same channel, same time. Freestyle Friday, and we just pick a picture that that people submit. So if you're listening, if you watching this live or you see this on the archive, upload a picture in the Facebook group, and then we'll select them, as many as we have time to do. We try to limit these to 2 hours, even though we're going on 3 hours now for this one. My thing is sleep is for the weak, especially on Friday nights. But I understand people definitely need to get their rest to start the next business day and everything like that. So we're going to close out this one. But if you're interested in class, contact me, contact anyone in the group. Join the group, the Facebook group. Go straight to the website. You can email. All the information is there. Explains the course. Is the price is very affordable. There's two versions of taking the course. You can take a self-study course, meaning you learn on your own with the book, and you're given the exercises in the book is online. You can track your scores and everything, and then the final exam or certification exam is available to you. So then you can show your proficiency and receive a certificate. So this course is a certified course, and a certificate is for your proficiency. So you prove it. You prove your proficiency, and that's what your certification is attesting to. And because of that, that's when, if you choose to, you can join the Seshew wbn.f Netcher group. And as we mentioned earlier, it's open. We want more people to jump in, get involved, become a member of the group. Membership has its benefits. Membership definitely has its benefits, because as a group, we meet, more often than what you see in the live hangouts. We meet all the time. We practice. We exchange information. We have a lot of different resources, materials, books, all kinds of things that we share and go over. And right now, like I don't know if I mentioned this, but I'm currently working on a grammar book and developing a grammar course that I anticipate to launch in the fall. So being a part of the group, we kind of discuss those things, and I try to bring everyone up to speed on different grammatical points and things like that to kind of prep everybody for the grammar course and the grammar book, because it's going to be more intense than a beginner's. It's even more intense in me putting it together. I had to really, I realized that it's not something that I could put together quick, and I wouldn't want to. I have to definitely take my time with this, and it's some serious stuff, serious work. So along with that, and we kind of keep up with each other. We sharpen each other's swords, and we also discuss the culture. We discuss, application of this stuff, because we don't want to just learn it just to be learning it. Just to be able to tell the next man, yeah, I can read that. Go to a museum, yeah, I can read that. Then what? So there's other layers to this. It's like an onion, peeling back an onion. There's multiple layers to this, and we're trying to cover it all. Developing institutions, along with another recommendation, or it's actually a series of books by University Kemet Press, and that's by the team Hr.k, Kilimanjaro, and his wife Ifa Kilimanjaro. And I believe there's more. I know it's just not those three, but those three are who I'm familiar with. But that team is a very solid team. They put out some excellent work. They have a series of 15 books, and I think, Antoine, you asked about research method. Those books I recommend for sure. They have a book that's called SIBA, and they have a book that's called Study Teams. And they have within that 15 books, they have like a series that covers research and so on. So those books are a must. Like I recommend everybody. That really should be a must-have. Like we need to create a list of must-have books, you know, and they would definitely be on the list. Definitely. So I would definitely recommend. So, you know, a part of the bigger picture, we need to develop more institutions. We need to develop an initiatory institution of initiations. You know, because you have a lot of people going around saying that they are priest or priestess of X, Y, and Z. You know, I don't understand, even from a historical perspective, how anybody can claim to be a priest or priestess who can't understand the language of the tradition that they're claiming to be a priest of. That, to me, that doesn't really gel well. You know, in order to be an imam of Islam, you would expect, it is just a basic logical expectation, that you would expect that the imam can read Arabic, read the Quran in Arabic. You would expect a rabbi to read the Torah in Hebrew. You would expect a Christian to read the New Testament in Greek, since they say, you know, that was revealed in Greek, or whatever the case is. These are just normal logical expectations. So likewise, anyone claiming to be a priest of Kemet, so to speak, or you know, any African tradition, then the normal expectation should be, can you read Sesh Medew Netcher? And then go from there, because that's, like I said, that's still surface, being able to read and stuff. But you got these different layers, like we talked about with the Dogons. But you know, so there's a bigger picture to all this. But anyway, I don't, you know, I'll ramble on. I'll keep going. Matter of fact, let me just show this last. I'll share my screen real quick if I can get to it. I know it's late. All right, so I'm sharing my screen again, and I just wanted to show what do we have here. So I showed the manual decodage already, the diacritic transliteration, dictionary entries, and the translations, partial translation. We already went over that. And here, just for information purposes, for the archived video. And this is where you can get the book and register for class, or like I said, you contact anybody in the Seshew Medew Netcher, or contact me, either inbox on Facebook or email me if you're interested. Like I said, I'm looking to start a brand new study group or class. Once I get 3 or more people, then I started, and it's 12 weeks long. So, and I have multiple classes going on simultaneously. So, like right now, I have a Sunday class, and we are in chapter 4 of the book, going into chapter 5. But I'm looking to start new class groups, and we start, you know, from the beginning. So that's basically how I've been doing it. And once I get 3 people, then we'll get started. It's 12 weeks long. And if you take a course with me interactively, you know, I guarantee you that you'll be able to transliterate and translate just like what we were doing tonight. All right? I'll make sure that I take this very serious. So with that, if nobody else has anything else to say, I would definitely end it. I know we've gone well over 2 hours.
Career in the fur.
All right. So I would say Shem Hotep, get in the fur. And I will end this here.